It's hard to believe that it's been almost 7 years since All-Stars Racing Transformed was released. Well, I suppose it was about time to get another Sonic racing game, and thus Sumo Digital has finally delivered the goods with Team Sonic Racing. For whatever reason, there was a lot of skepticism surrounding this game prior to its release, but personally I really enjoyed the previous two games and had little doubt that this game would be of similar quality. Unfortunately, with this new installment, we're missing the representation of other Sega IPs, but I feel like most people only cared about the Sonic characters anyways, so I guess it's not a huge loss to most. Now, whenever a game like this comes out, it's easy to write it off as a copy of Mario Kart, and while I could see that argument be made for the previous games, I think that the core team mechanic here is fresh enough to stand on its own. But let's get into this review and I'll tell you all about it. New to this game is a story mode, and I can't really tell you what happens in it because it didn't take very long for me to tune out of what was going on, as the story is presented to you through these bland cutouts. I personally wouldn't say that this takes anything away from the game though, because I sincerely hope the story in a game like this wouldn't be a selling point to anyone. You're tasked with completing various missions including single races, completing a Grand Prix, collecting a certain number of rings, skimming checkpoint bars, etc. Certain missions are better than others though. I really wasn't a fan of the missions where you have to skim the checkpoint bars, because if you so much as graze the side of one, then you won't get any points. And sometimes it feels like the hitbox on them is a little bigger than they should be. Overall though, it's a fun mode, and I thought it was much better than the mission modes in the previous games, as here it doesn't end up feeling monotonous by the time you've completed it. Outside of the story mode, you have your standard racing game content like Grand Prix, single races, and time trials. What's nice is that if you would rather forego the team mechanic and just do some regular racing, then you totally have that option. But how does this team mechanic work anyways? Well, when this game was first announced, it was the aspect that I was most concerned about, as I felt it would be pretty distracting and hard to manage while racing. However, thankfully I can say that I believe it was implemented well. You'll be in a team of 3 and you can do various actions to help your teammates out, like following their trail to slingshot boost, giving them a skim boost when they've spun out, and sending items their way. As you perform any of these team actions, a meter at the bottom will fill up, and once it's filled all the way, you'll be able to perform a team ultimate, which makes you and your teammates go way faster and become invincible for a short period of time. In team races, it's not necessarily about you as an individual getting a high place at the end of the race. You have to help your teammates place highly, as depending on what place you're in at the end of the race, you'll get a certain number of points. And the team that ends up with the most points at the end wins. So you might end up in first place, but if your teammates are in 11th and 12th place respectively, then there's a good chance that another team might beat you. It sounds like a lot to deal with, but when you're actually playing it, the teamwork mechanic flows nicely, and when playing with CPUs, as long as you're doing good in a race, then generally your teammates will as well. There are 3 classes of characters to play as: speed, handling, and heavy types, which are pretty self-explanatory. I usually stick to playing as speed type characters, but if I'm doing a mission where I feel I'll need better control, then I'll switch to a handling type. I really can't stand the heavy types though. I just think that they're too slow and clunky for me. Maybe you can make them better with the customizable parts, but I'd rather just stick with the characters I'm comfortable with. Speaking of which, yes, you can unlock different car parts to slightly change up some attributes and the aesthetics of your car. As you play through the game, you'll receive credits, and every 10 credits you can try your luck with mod pods. This is how you unlock all the parts to your car. You can also get items to help you out as well. Thankfully, there's no microtransactions tied to this system. You just have to play the game to get the currency, which I really appreciate. If only this could be standard practice in the industry. As much fun as I've had with this game on my own, I unfortunately can't say the same about the online. None of my friends own the Xbox version of this game as far as I'm aware, so I had to try my luck with random strangers, and when my game didn't crash while trying to look for a game, I would have to wait quite a bit for other players. It's sad that, unfortunately, this game just doesn't seem to have a very active online community, at least not on Xbox. But hey, if anyone watching this does have the Xbox version and wants to help me get the "A friend in speed is a friend indeed" achievement, then feel free to add me on Xbox Live. There's my gamer tag, and I'm just so lonely. Anyways, the few times that I did manage to get online, it seemed to work pretty well overall. There weren't too many weird hiccups that I noticed, so that's pretty good, I guess. So yeah, this game plays pretty well. If you played the previous Sonic racing games, then you'll feel right at home. In fact, if you've played literally any other kart racer, then you should be able to easily adjust to the controls. With all of that said, I do find the character selection a little strange. Like, we have Vector as a playable character, but he's teamed up with Silver and Blaze for some reason instead of the Chaotix. Then Zavok is here randomly as a part of the villains team, which makes sense, but you would think they would have Infinite instead since he's from the most recent game, so you would think he'd be more relevant than Zavok. Also, you just have a random group of Chow on Team Rose when it seems like Cream would have been the better choice, but whatever. Some of the selection is puzzling, but I won't lose sleep over it since I mostly just play as Sonic anyways. By the way, in case it was a concern to anyone, you can have whoever you want on your team in multiplayer. The teams are only preset for the story mode. It's standard practice at this point that Sonic games have to look good and contain killer soundtracks, and TSR is no different. Not that you needed me to tell you. The Xbox version targets 60 FPS, and for the most part is successful. There are some frame drops here and there, but I never encountered anything too drastic. I'm sure on the One X it would run at a constant 60 frames, but I don't own one, so I can't say. There isn't a bad sounding track in the game whatsoever. I absolutely love that Crush 40 has finally returned, and Green Light Ride fits right in with all of their other songs. The race themes are fun as well. The standout for me is the theme for Boo's House, which is a remix of Sandopolis Zone from Sonic 3. I gotta admit though, I'm getting tired of all the You Can Do Anything remixes in these games. I mean, I like the original song, but I've always been a bigger fan of Sonic Boom. But I digress. Team Sonic Racing isn't exactly perfect, but I think whether it's better than some other racing game or not doesn't really matter. The core mechanic is unique enough that I think veterans of other games in the genre can come into this and find something to enjoy. So, would I recommend Team Sonic Racing? Absolutely not. When games like Garfield Kart are out there and go on sale all the time for like $1, then there's absolutely no need for anyone to go out and waste money on overpriced $40 garbage. Yeah, Garfield's still funny, isn't it?